You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, presented by Bet365. We're back from the 3-day holiday break. This is Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga joined alongside Dave Pagnotta. What's going on, DP? How are you, buddy? Merry Christmas.
I'm good. There we go. Earpiece is falling out, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm stuffed still. It was 3 days of just constant eating and drinking.
I'm happy you said that. I'm full of being full. And any Italian out there, anybody for that matter, can understand and comprehend what we mean. Like, you have to physically prepare and emotionally prepare for weeks for Christmas season when you're Italian, man.
Oh, dude. It's mental prep. It's, as you said, physical prep. You got to talk to your stomach. You got to talk to your liver. You got to have nice conversations, ease it into what's about to happen. It's the same thing every year, but I mean, it smacks you right in the face by like Boxing Day. And I had another dinner last night, so it's bad. It's bad. I'm glad there's a bit of a breather now until New Year's, but I don't want to see fish, lamb, turkey, nothing for for a few days.
I know, now just a liquid diet. I'm right there with you. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, NATION, all in uppercase today. Our Super Chat, by the way, charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comments get on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and third in the world. I don't know about you, Dave. I really, really missed the NHL over the last couple of days. We got a sniff for the World Juniors last night. Canada was fantastic. Easton Cowan, who guested on this show last week, scores a goal in that game. So feeling good about life, but happy to have the NHL back tonight, eh?
Yeah, it's a nice break though. Because of the food reason, for me personally, I'm glad that I don't have to watch it consistently for 42 to 78 hours. 48 to 72 hours. I can't even make sense. See, the food is still affecting the brain. It's a mess. It's a mess. But yeah, World Juniors got going. Easton Cowan with the goal yesterday, as the Canadians shut out the Finns 4-0. And now we get back into NHL action. We got a game today against Detroit. There's a bunch more in the National Hockey League that'll get going, and the roster freeze lifts at midnight. So all kinds. All kinds. You can get your T-shirt afterwards. Someone make a trade. Let's see if anybody pulls it off. But we're back, baby.
We are back. Unfortunately, I don't think those T-shirts are available anymore. For those of you who understand the joke, I have a Someone Make a Trade T-shirt. They were live for a while, but not anymore. I copped a couple, had a massive giveaway. But I could only wonder, was it harsh what Detroit did, waiting until Boxing Day to let Derek Lalonde have his time with his family, and then, oh yeah, you're gone. See you later, buddy.
I gotta think he knew it was coming. Especially over the holidays like that, you kind of want to prep him and give him a heads up. And McClellan as well. It was a few days where they knew this was coming down. Just timing. You don't want to do it on Christmas Eve or Christmas. So we're going to announce this on the 26th. Prep you, but look, Detroit had to do something. Steve Yzerman this morning said that their expectations, if everything went according to plan, was to compete for a wild card spot, and they're second last in the East. So something at some point has to give. And he's been active in terms of trying to make trades and modify his roster, but there's no short fix. So you sign McClellan to a long-term deal. It's a multi-year contract for him. This isn't just a one-off. And it's the first domino really to fall for the Wings.
And if my mind serves me correctly, McClellan was on Mike Babcock's bench back in the day in Detroit, right?
Yep. Yeah. He coached the Yzerman as well. So there's familiarity there, as part of it. So, this is, I'm pretty sure he did at some point, coach Steve Yzerman. So again, familiarity. They needed to make a change. They wanted to bring in a veteran presence, and quite frankly, a guy who is going to hold those guys accountable. He's a hard-ass coach. Knowing him from Los Angeles, and prior to that, he was in Edmonton and San Jose. But he's a guy that commands a lot of respect, demands a lot of respect, and he'll earn it as well. And for the younger kids on that group in Detroit, it's not to say that they didn't have that with Derek Lalonde, but you bring in a veteran guy. That was his first NHL coaching experience. He was an assistant coach for years with Tampa, and he won Stanley Cups. But when you get to the head coach level, it's a little bit different. And Todd's a good coach. He gets a lot of flack because of his structure in LA, which was the 1-3-1, and they were very defensive minded. But you got to kind of work with what you have, and I think it'll be a bit of a process here for the Wings. But I like him. I think this is a good ad for them. It's no bullshit kind of guy. And now let's see what Yzerman ends up doing, tweaking that roster.
I'm a big New Zealand loan guy. He guessed it on this podcast last year. He's a good dude. I think just another scapegoat. I think this is more about the shortcomings of the general manager. The Yzer plan has lasted like 15 to 20 years, it feels like. The other takeaway is Cam Talbot is back with Todd McCullough again. He can't escape the guy at this point. It's like 3 straight stops he's had him as a head coach.
Yeah, well, he likes him, so that's a good thing.
Good.
It's a plus that he
I hope.
actually likes him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and in these types of situations, because he's got experience with the head coach, the other guys are going to rely on him, get the feedback. How is this guy? Is he legit? And how's he work in the room? So there's again that familiarity from the players' side of things too, and it kind of makes it a little bit easier of a transition when you've got somebody that your goaltender or anybody on your team, but in this case, Cam's obviously the goalie. You get a guy who can spread out that experience or at least share that experience with the rest of the group. So it's not just coming in cold. Guys have a little bit of an understanding and an expectation as to what's going to happen here with their new head coach. And also Trent Yanni coming in as an assistant because Bob Bugner got the axe as well.
Yeah, I saw that was a throw into the media release. It's like, yeah, Bob Bugner, you're out too. See you, buddy. And Trent Yanni, you're in. But that is just the coaching shuffling around the NHL. And we hope the Maple Leafs a massive favorite for this game. But again, the new coach bump, I'm weary of that. I'm also weary of McClellan, who was in the running for this job, but they gave it to Craig Berube, right? So there's that revenge aspect too.
Yeah, to a certain extent. You love your revenge.
I do.
Yep, yep. But look, Todd was in the running for the Leafs gig before they went to Berube. I'm sure maybe that's part of his decision, or sorry, his game plan going into today. But quite frankly, he wants to get his first W and he wants to get this team on the right track. So it's always a tricky one. The Leafs should be heavily favored, but this is your post, Christmas coma trap game with a new head coach on top of it for Detroit. This might be a tough one for Toronto.
Personally, I think they're old, they're slow. If you're losing to Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko, then you're not fit to win a Stanley Cup. I don't care when it is. It happened a couple weeks ago. I'm just not a big fan of what Yzerman has put together there. Nevertheless, so the Maple Leafs recall Matt Murray, reassign Dennis Hildeby to the Marlies, and Murray's first start, of course, a 6-3 win against Buffalo, 24 saves. Only fitting, excuse me, last night that Dennis Hildeby would get a shutout in that game for the Marlies, but it was part and parcel to get Hildeby some playing time, but also I would expect Murray's going to play at some point over the next 2 games here, right?
Yeah, I would assume. I mean, with the back-to-backs, because you have Washington tomorrow. And Ovi, by the way, was practicing back with Protas and Strome this morning. So that'll be a nice. If he gets into the lineup, you got to worry about that tomorrow as well. Yeah, I mean, back-to-backs, there's no need to start Wall in both of them or what have you. You got to imagine Murray's going to get something here. And I don't think they've made any announcements so far as to who's going in tonight. So we'll see. But it would only make sense, especially coming off a bit of a break. It would only make sense to split the duties.
I love the NHL. Like Mackenzie Blackwood's played like 5 games for Colorado, and now apparently he's working on a contract extension. Like, I don't know. Teams just like get goaded into making mistakes, especially one like Colorado who hasn't had a goalie in like years, and they try to get Georgiev, and now they're just going to sign up for a long-term marriage here with Mackenzie Blackwood. I'm just reading on the wire right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they wanted him for some time. So we'll see kind of where that goes and what type of extension he ends up getting. I would imagine you're probably looking in the 3-4 year range. for him. But this is a guy that they targeted earlier. And the week before the trade, they were all over him with San Jose trying to get a deal done. They thought they had a deal done, and Colorado kind of just wanted to, or excuse me, San Jose wanted to kind of wait things out a little bit. Kovalenko got into the mix, which is one of the pieces that they wanted, and then ultimately they got this deal done. But the Avs seem to believe that Blackwood is going to be their guy. So, fuck it, lock him up.
Fair enough. We move on here on Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga, Dave Pagnotta. Make sure you hammer that like button, hammer that subscribe button. And don't forget to join us in Music City from Thursday, March 20th to Sunday, March 23rd, 2025 for the first ever TLN Nation vacation, from live podcasts, winery tours, to taking in the Toronto-Nashville game at Bridgestone Arena. This promises to be the trip of a lifetime. We're offering 2 packages, one with flights, $24.50 plus tax, and one without, $12.99 plus tax. Hotel rooms are double occupancy. For more information on how to book, head on over to nationgear.ca or check out the link in our show bio. Life's too short for ordinary vacations. Looking forward to that one. You're going to be there for that one, right?
Yeah, I will be. Gotta have a talk with my liver before that trip. Tell you that.
Talk with my liver. Yeah, start talking about it in late December, because March will be here very, very quickly. I was sitting up waiting last night, and on January 7th, it's going to be the 2-month mark between, the trade deadline, which is crazy if you think about when the season started, right?
Yeah, time friggin' flies. We're what's second half of September, gearing up for training camp and everything getting going, and then here we go. We're underway. Buffalo loses 2 to New Jersey overseas, and maybe that was an omen
Probably,
of
yeah.
things to come. But they're a mess as well. But yeah, we're just over two and a half months, just under 2.5 months actually until the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Colorado getting some house cleaning done now.
Pretty wild stuff. The Nation Gear Boxing Day blowout is here, by the way, from December 26th to 29th. It's time for the biggest sale of the year on the Nation Gear. Here's a deal: 20% off every single piece of Nation Gear, hoodies, tees, hats, you name it. It's all on sale. Plus, if you spend over $200, we'll even throw in free shipping. Head on over to nationgear.ca right now. That's nationgear.ca. Gear up, save big, and look sharp repping your team as we get set to tee up the back-to-back this weekend for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to talk about the trade market as well. Yanni Gourde's name's been out there, Luke Shen, among others. These are names we've been speculating upon for the last couple weeks. Don't forget, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button at the Leafs Nation 401 Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. This segment is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring build and delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. So yet another back-to-back DP for the Maple Leafs. 1-1-0 so far this season against Detroit. The last game happening like 2 weeks ago, December 15th, a 4-2 loss. What are you expecting in this one tonight?
Like I said, post Christmas break trap game. Whether it's Murray or whoever gets to start doesn't really matter. That we've talked about this before. The Leafs have a tendency of doing this when you play a crappy team. They take their foot off the gas. Probably no Austin tonight as well. So that'll be kind of part of the mix. You're going to want to see somebody stepping up. But to have Detroit, come out after a coaching change, brand new guy in this one, this has the making of a full-on trap game, which is problematic because you have Washington with potentially Ovi in the lineup tomorrow. You can't, regardless of who you're playing, you got to bring your A game, obviously, but you can't afford to drop too many points, especially to the bottom feeder teams. So hopefully it's not the case for the Leafs. But this definitely has the makeup, not just because of the fact that they're playing the second worst team in the conference, but because of the coaching change and the motivation that the Wings have to play better in front of their new head coach. This could be a tougher one than it should be for Toronto, I suspect.
Not to mention, the Leafs haven't played the Capitals well. I know they beat them the first time, but there was that crazy,
No.
chaotic come from behind game where they're down 3-1 in the third, then muscled back to win that game in overtime. The added wrench to this, too, is the fact that Detroit will play Washington on Sunday. And sometimes the new coach bump does happen in game two and not game one. I actually expect a very motivated and driven Maple Leafs team, more so because of what transpired before the break. I would say back-to-back duds, that game against the Islanders. And I thought they were okay against the Winnipeg Jets, but not at their best. Connor Hellebuck was really, really good in that game. And
Yeah.
it felt and looked like a really fatigued hockey club. So I think if there was a team that could benefit from a bit of a break here, was probably the Maple Leafs, not to mention some of the guys licking their wounds. Tanev didn't play last game. I'm with you on Austin Matthews. I don't expect this guy anytime soon. Stranger
Yeah.
things have happened, but I think it was a good time for a bit of R&R for this team too.
Yeah, certainly came at a good moment. Obviously, no question. Rest the body a little bit, spend some time with your family, relax, get your mind off the game a little bit, give yourself a bit of a distraction. And that certainly does benefit without question. Um, Look, they should win. Like, let's not beat around the bush here. They should beat the crap out of the Detroit Red Wings. But because of the change that happened with the Wings, I'm expecting a more feistier group out of Detroit because of and exclusively because of the coaching change. And then again, the message this morning from Steve Yzerman, our expectations were wild card contention. They're not even friggin' close. So now you're as a player, you're motivated even deeper now, not just because you've got a new guy behind the bench, but our GM basically called us out publicly. And it doesn't really happen. Steve Yzerman doesn't typically do that. So you got two motivating factors here if you're a wing. You got the coach, and then you want to prove to your GM that we can still get this going. The season's done, but we've got the good building blocks for next season and on. And let's get back to wildcard contention next season with some changes that he definitely has to make. So again, trap game scenario. Toronto has impressed me this season with not falling into those traps too often. Isles game, the last one notwithstanding, because the Isles in the last bit have kind of owned them. Um,
Yeah.
but this Leafs group has shown this season, like the big one for me was a few weeks ago when they played Chicago. That had trap game written all over it, and then I think Nashville was a little bit after that. Um, but they were able to put that crap behind them. Like if this were last season's Leafs, they would have lost that game, and they'll probably lose tonight. But this is a different group this season, so let's see. They should be able to come out and they should win tonight. But there's different motivating factors on the other side that's going to play a bit of a role here in this game.
Yeah, and that's why I expected a bit of a response. I think Detroit's going to be better. I
Yeah,
think maybe if something you're looking at from the betting landscape is the under in this game, just because Detroit hasn't been able to score all season long. They can't keep the puck out of the net either. They rank in like the bottom 10 in both major categories in this league. So that's obviously a big thing to look at now with Todd McClellan behind the bench. But the Leafs have been really, really good at responding, and they lose
yeah,
back-to-back games in regulation. I just wonder if that response is there tonight, regardless of who starts, regardless of who plays. Like, it's now back-to-back games without Austin Matthews. Maybe we're seeing a bit of regression here. The numbers were so sparkling without Matthews. Now the last two games, they've really looked like a team that's missed the guy, weirdly enough.
yeah. And maybe they were getting too ahead of themselves in those scenarios. Maybe they were already focused on the break and getting ready for. And sometimes that happens. But better to do that kind of crap now than in April, as we've seen in the past. But this group, again, because of the difference between this, just the mental prep of this group versus last season, there's a different professional persona that's kind of following them around, and that's directly correlates to the head coach and the system that he's brought in place. And yes, obviously, when you have other guys like, and I know Tanev didn't play the other night, but when you've got Tanev and OEL, and you're bringing in Lorenz, and you bring in some of these other guys into this room that have that professional, kind of feel for them, it should put them in a different position in a game like tonight, where again, as we talked about, years past, trap game all day long, but and especially with the coaching change and the motivator there. But let's see how they respond. Um, to tonight in this one, because it's not just about coming off the break. It's about, as you said, kind of getting back in the wins column after a couple duds, um, to end or to start last week.
I love the Leafs, and I think every team is guilty of this, but I show up to the game on Monday afternoon, the next gen game, and like minutes before, oh, Chris Tanev's not playing. Like, bury the lead, why don't you? But like, I think this happens around the league. Is there anything you know on that situation? I didn't read too directly into it. I just felt like maybe it was a good spot to get a guy a bit more of a break with a 3-day
Yep.
holiday break. He's a veteran, takes a lot of shots, blocks a lot of shots. Are you hearing anything else on Chris Tanev?
Not particularly. No, I think I think a big part of it is primarily that. Give the guy a little extra rest. Give him a couple days. It's an afternoon game anyway, so sometimes that the mental prep is a little bit different for afternoon games, especially midweek. And they'll have another one on Wednesday against the
Yeah,
Islanders before the year wraps up. But no, I think it's that. Now, keep in mind the way this organization has
true.
shared its injury information has been a little, weary, little. So who knows if we get an announcement tonight that he's gone 3 to 4 weeks. I think a lot of people will lose it. I don't think it's to that effect, but wouldn't be shocked if he's back in. He should be back in the lineup tonight.
This is Chris Tanev too. Like, folks, we have to remind you, he does go down the hallway quite a bit. He does block a lot of shots. Very
Yeah.
seldom does he play an entire season. So I'm not stunned. I thought it was a really good spot to pick, not knowing the severity of anything going on. You're so right. They could easily come out in the next hour and be like, yeah, this guy's gone for 3 to 4 weeks. But fingers crossed that doesn't happen. I think generally speaking, they have to be happy with where they're at in the standings. 21, 12, and 2, 44 points. I know there's some heat around them, obviously, with the likes of Tampa and Boston, the Florida Panthers ahead of them. But I think it's been a mixed bag, specifically in December. They're 7-5 through 12 games. But all in all, I'm not that disappointed with this unofficial first half for the Maple Leafs. Like, it's been a mixed bag. I expected a bit of turbulency, but at the core, I think there is a pretty decent sized change, and I'm happy with it. Are you?
You should be. I mean, Leaf fans should be without question. I mean, the way that these guys have played, it's again different than what we've seen in the past. And they've also put the defensive side of things and the physical side of things ahead of the offensive game. They know
Mhm.
they've got the skill. We got to hunker down here. If I'm in the room, I'm saying we got to hunker down and focus on the other areas of the game that are going to make us better come game 83 and on. So focus on that. We've got skill. We got skill coming out the ass. We got skill everywhere. There's a lot of offense. There's a lot of goal scoring on this club, and the capabilities are there. But we got to fine tune the other elements of this game. And I think we'll start to see probably in the last third of the season more of the offense get exploited in the right way, because there will be kind of that mental prep already. It's force a habit, so to speak, to focus on the physicality and the defensive side of the game, then implementing the offense. This first bit of the season, you better be happy. I mean, you're battling for first. Your guys are doing well. Marner, Nick, your favorite player, is on pace for 110 points.
Mhm.
Um, JT's doing well. Nylander's doing well. Austin, when he's healthy, has overall been solid. And again, the D has been great, and the goaltending's been solid. So like all of these different elements are in play here, and this is a good hockey team. Let's see how this next bit goes as they remain focused, I would assume, on the defensive element and the physicality of the game, because it's going to be tougher going into the stretch. But as I said, I think eventually the offense is going to start to spread its wings a little bit more because they're already going to be kind of zeroed in mentally on playing the other elements of that game.
You're right. I mean, there's not much to dislike, but obviously, we always have a pulse of social media here at the Leafs Nation. I know a lot of people still wondering why Sheldon Keefe isn't the head coach and this and that, but I think in terms of things you're not happy with or disappointments, if you will, there's just not many of them. Like, I look everywhere
Oh,
across this roster, I'm like positive development, great news, great news, great news, and that's what you want from a building hockey club. Having said
yeah,
that, it feels like the Leafs are always a loss away from the sky imploding. And that, I guess, it's just this market, right?
that's the market.
Yeah.
100%. It's the market. Like they can win 10 in a row, and then the 11th game they'll lose 7-1, and all hell is going to break loose.
Yeah.
Like the talk shows, everything, the social media, all of it is going to be this team, typical Leafs. Relax, everybody. This is
You
a
don't
good
buy
team.
it.
No, it's a good group. It's a casualty of the market, and some of the bananas are a little bit louder than than most, but you should be pretty damn pleased with what you're seeing from this group, primarily because they're not exclusively relying on the skill element of their game anymore. They're adding the other factors of what it takes to being a winning hockey club.
I will just say this, there has to be concern, not only with media, with people who host shows like this, with fans, regarding a guy who snuck over to Munich, Germany, comes
Mm.
back, and he's banged up again, and he re-aggravates something. I didn't buy for a second he was anywhere close remotely to being healthy in those games he did play, but we're getting a little later in the season, and now we're about to hit the midway point. The Four Nations is coming up, and I think that's a moot point. We'll talk about that later on in Take It or Leaf It. But there has to be growing concern as to A, how to handle this situation, and B, what this means for the long-term prospects of Austin Matthews this season.
Yeah, you don't need. First of all, you don't need to rush him, and I think that's the last thing that needs to happen here. Make sure he's ready to go. If he misses the next 10 games, gives a crap. Miss the next 10 games. Team's going to be fine. You want him as healthy as possible come playoff time. So, I mean, like I understand there's not a lot of transparency around his injury, which can be frustrating. But I mean, at the end of the day, you just want the guy healthy. Like, go do whatever you got to do. Whatever your injury is, go do whatever you got to do to fix it. Play better, and when you come back, and help this team, compete for a championship. There's enough in the tank. They got enough weapons right now where you don't need to worry about not having Austin in the lineup. This month is going to end, in less than a week. Focus on the other elements. Focus on the positives. Tree's going to look to bring in somebody for that second line. Focus on all those things, and then go from there.
I just thought it was weird that the wording the wording around Matthews so far has been he's day to day. We'll see how he reacts before the break. To like, we'll see how he does over the 3-day break. Like, why not just shut the guy down? I don't understand. Is the Four Nations weighing in on both sides right now? Do you think, to their best of your knowledge?
From the Leafs' perspective, I hope not, because who gives
Yeah,
a shit,
yeah.
right? Like nobody. It doesn't matter. It's a made-up tournament. Like I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to
Sure.
enjoy it. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, from a Leafs mentality, boot. I don't care. See ya. Forget it. You're not playing in that damn thing. Like if the injury is serious enough, um, you need to have a conversation with Austin and his agent and his team and say, look, guys, what's more important here, playing for this thing or playing for a Stanley Cup? And and it could simply be a day-to-day thing right now. We don't know because no one's saying anything. But at the end of it, if you're thinking long term, and this is going to be something that's going to be a long-term issue this season, see you later. Four
Yeah,
Nations, peace.
yeah.
I don't care. You're on this U.S. team, Canadian team, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. I want to compete for a Stanley Cup. If there's the possibility that you're going to re-aggravate something, or it's going to take you longer to heal by playing in this tournament, I'm sorry. See you later. Focus on the Olympics. Who cares about this one right now?
The game writes in, Dave, the Leafs are afraid to sit him.
Like healthy scratch him?
No, like sit him. You can't play Austin. You're injured. You have to sit
Um,
tonight.
well, that's kind of what they're doing, right? Like they're kind of saying,
You're telling me our chat's not right.
I mean, look, if he was good enough to play, there wouldn't be a concern. But we even talked about this, Nick, off of this. We were just texting after. Was it the game against what? No, the game against Buffalo, where we were
He didn't look
kind
right.
of saying he was laboring a little bit. He was
Yeah.
grimacing kind of towards the end of the game, and we were like, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses the next few games. Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, buddy, you're sitting. You got to heal up.
I got heat after that Devils game where he scores the OT winner, and I questioned that he didn't look anywhere remotely close to being right. And people were like, "How could you say that? He scored the winner. He has not looked right all season long." I've been echoing this sentiment the entire year. He is so damn good at hockey. You look, and he's averaging a point per game. That's just how good Austin Matthews is, and he's nowhere close to being healthy. And I think the biggest objective between now and the end of the regular season, get this guy right, Dave. I'm so there
Yeah,
with you. He's
yeah, that's
accomplished
what it has to be.
everything in the regular season. It is all about the Stanley Cup playoffs. If he needs to miss the next 40 games, so be it. I think they're going to be okay, but I love having that LTIR conversation. I really do.
Yeah, well, just to spend the money, um, or just to sit him. Look, again, he's your best guy. Do you want your best guy playing at 50%, or do you want him as close to 100 as possible? If it means sitting him out for a bit. Now, if he's out of the lineup and they're losing and they're dropping down the standings, and all of a sudden they're out of the top three in the Atlantic and this, that, and the other, then you have a different conversation. But when you've got Mitch and Willie and Tavares and so on and so on, um, stepping in and kind of holding the fort down, and you're still in a position where you're competing for first in the division, I don't understand what the argument is.
I know.
Sit the guy, make sure
Yeah.
he's healthy, tell him as nicely as possible you're not playing in that fucking tournament, and that's it. Focus on playoffs and go from there. Obviously, in this type of the league would love to see him in the tournament,
Yeah.
clearly, but the Leafs are the ones chasing a Stanley Cup. You got to figure out what's best for that objective, not for tonight against Detroit.
Yeah, and you know this market. People are trying to create theories as to why they haven't announced he's out indefinitely or not playing for the foreseeable future, and people trying to pin this on the four nations. And Austin really wants to play for the States. Like, I get that, but I can't buy it. It would just be a tough look for the guy who's the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, trying to force himself to play in a fabricated, man-made tournament when it's not even the Olympics and there are four nations. Like, I don't know.
I
It would
can
be a
I can tell
tough look.
you, yeah, I could tell. I spent a little bit of time with him in the summer.
Yeah.
Is he excited to rep his country? Of course. Um, would I throw money down that he's prioritizing that over his season with the Leafs? Absolutely not. Like, again, this isn't an official World Cup. This isn't the Olympics. This is a different ball game here,
Yeah.
right? Like he wants to win a championship with the Toronto Maple Leafs. If this tournament, if he's not healthy and this tournament hinders his ability to get healthy, he's not playing in it.
I said this last week. I think it would be such a positive PR spin to this whole thing if Matthews came out and said, "I'm not playing in this tournament. I'm banged up. I'm hurt." Had like a press conference and said, "I'm looking to win a Stanley Cup this season." Just hearing those words would make me so excited, Dave.
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-22. Those should be the right words for this market, but because this is a league-driven event, NHL, NHLPA, you've got to be. It's politics. You got to play it nice. You can't just say "F this tournament. I want to focus on." You've got to word it in a certain way. So don't be surprised if he's not healthy enough to play in this tournament. Don't be surprised in a month from now they have that discussion and he addresses the media and says, "I'm not 100%. I don't want to risk getting hurt even further. I want to compete for a championship with Toronto, and my priorities are there. As much as I would love, and it would be an honor, and blah, 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 to wear the jersey and this, that, represent my country, blah, 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 I'm out." But
It's like
that is something that's more likely to occur in a month than now. If it happens now, it should, but if it happens now, I'd be shocked.
it's like the old Ovechkin conversation around the All-Star game. He always had like a hammy cramp up, you know?
Well, he never wanted to go. Like, that was no surprise. It's like, the hell with this. The hell do I want to go to St. Louis for?
But you talk about the wording. It was always like he's got an injury and then he was forced to miss a game after because you get like an automatic suspension for not going to All-Star, but he was too busy at like the roulette table probably.
Well, he took the one gamer like 3
Yeah.
years in a row, right? Or
Yeah.
something like that. He's like, "Fuck this. I'll just,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can you can dock 50 grand off my pay or whatever the hell it is."
I'm just very curious in general, these four nations rosters, how accurate they look to the ones that were called out, obviously in early December, and more so
Yeah.
about injuries, what that means for other guys, not only on Canada, but the States and the other two nations. So obviously something we're monitoring very closely when it comes to Austin Matthews, the front end of the back-to-back. They're in Detroit, then home to Washington Saturday night. I had mentioned earlier on this season, the Caps have played Toronto very, very well. They're 1-1-0 against them. And you added the wrinkle, of course, that Alex Ovechkin is coming back from a broken leg and could return in time for this game to start pursuing Gretzky again. Needs 27 goals to pass 99. He had a surreal start. It really was unfortunate to see him go down.
Yeah, it was. That was tough. And I mean, it was an accident. It wasn't like the guy was gunning for him, but it was just it sucked. Now let's see how he does when he comes back. And maybe that gets him a little bit closer. And then next season you can do this whole tour marketing bullshit extravaganza on him, breaking the record. So, and then the celebration afterward, because if he plays solid and he's like 10 goals away, then you have the entire rest of the season to celebrate the fact that he broke Wayne's record.
True. It's a big party.
It is. Prep your liver for that one too.
Yeah. There's a lot of preparations underway in this league right now. By the way, from the morning skate, the Leafs back on the ice. Chris Tanev is on the ice after missing last game with a lower body injury. And unsurprisingly, full skate underway. No captain, no Austin Matthews, not taking part. You would assume he is not going to play his third consecutive game, but they're now 7-4-0 in 11 outings without Austin Matthews in the lineup. But I expected that. I'm happy Tanev's back out there. We talked about it a bit earlier on, though. I think it was just a bit of seasoning for like a veteran who needed a day off.
Yeah, and that's fine. And it's at a time of year where, again, afternoon game, you got a break coming up. It gives you a nice little stretch into the off season, or excuse me, into the holiday break, where you can mend your body for basically a week. So, good to see, obviously. And this isn't going to be a scenario where it's a magical surprise injury. That's going to extend him out for a long period of time. He's back on the ice. I would presume he's going to be in the lineup, tonight. But again, you take advantage of those stretches during the season. Like for other players that aren't on any of the Four Nations rosters, if any player needs to miss a game going into it because it's going to just prolong, all of a sudden instead of 2 weeks off, you're getting 2.5, 3, because you need that for your body for down the stretch. Don't be surprised to see some other teams doing the same thing.
Dave, I sincerely mean this. Our chat misses nothing. Maxentius Decimus. Oh my God, his earbuds keep falling out. Can we buy you some new headphones or what? You're like,
It's killing me. It's killing me. Okay, I'm doing my best. It's pissing me the hell off, and I can imagine how you guys are you're getting annoyed watching me kind of fiddle with these fucking things.
Yeah, but what's the deal with them? Like, how do they keep coming out? Are they meant for your ear?
They are. I position them in a way where the cord isn't in front of me.
Oh,
and yeah.
Doesn't matter about the cord, man. Show us your cord, bro.
That's after dark.
No. Good point.
Yeah,
yes.
no, sorry. I'm trying over here. This fucking thing.
It's okay. The chat catches everything.
No, I would too. I would chirp me too.
I don't know if it was a chirp. They just Max finds it hilarious. Nevertheless, the morning skate, by the way, the third line that had some success recently, McMahon, Domi, and Robertson back together. So it appears they're going to go once again here in Detroit. And that's so crucial, again, between now and March 7th, is trying to find if you have something in your third line, if Domi can play center. Like, I feel like we had these conversations so many times, but now's probably the time to see what you have in some of these lines, especially without Austin Matthews not playing.
Yeah, can they produce? Can they be productive? With whether Max is going to be at center or you're going to move him out afterwards and have Minton come in, get him more ice time eventually. You want to see what you got here. So if you can have a productive third line, especially going into the playoffs, that does wonders for a team's obviously success, but also their confidence. Because you don't have to rely necessarily on first line, second line. You can throw out your third line and it can be productive at both ends of the ice. So if you need to throw in some offense a little bit, perfect. You've got the guys that are capable of doing it and pulling it off. Every championship team, they've got production from lines 1 through 4, from D pairs 1, 2, and 3, and from their goalie. So, the Leafs. When's the last time they've had a very productive third line?
I can't even think about it.
Yeah,
Alan McCauley.
maybe, yeah. Like you're looking at those 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Really, in terms of being a truly productive third line unit. So to have that now, you want to see what you got. And if you don't have one of the pieces, or if you feel that it's not going to be a full season type thing, then you allow Tree to kind of go out there and kind of explore a little bit more, even though they're going to bring in somebody for that second line at some point. It's either on the left side or at center. That's the priority for this club. And if you could find the finances, make them work, and modify your bottom six, awesome, bonus. But that's what they want to try to figure out here, if they even have to.
Yeah, John D writes in, what's the most likely Leafs trade before the deadline?
Well,
McDavid?
again, like
McDavid?
addressing what's that?
McDavid?
Yes, yeah, Connor. That'll work out well. Trading for Austin. This is no. It's again. I think they're gonna bring in somebody, as I said, for the second line, either a left winger or a center, and then you move Tavares to the left. I think that's the priority. It may not necessarily be a legitimate second line star, like a Brock Nelson, for example, but because the asset pool is kind of not super deep, they've got some pieces. It's really going to come down to what type of price they want to pay, and if they feel they can get to that point in terms of competing for a Stanley Cup. Can they get out of the division? Can they go to the Eastern Conference Final and go from there? So I would imagine second line. They're gonna add somebody up front by the trade deadline. The second line is the priority, and then you go from there afterwards. Like, can you bring in a Yanni Gourde, for example? Again, we've talked about this earlier in the season. Sure, like he can be your interchangeable guy between lines 2 and 3 if you want, more likely suited for the third line. But it seems like up front is definitely the priority right now.
I've been on the record in saying like Brock Nelson's a guy I really covet from the New York Islanders. Obviously a pending UFA. The Islanders are a bubble team. They've been playing a bit better as of late. But what do you think it would take to get a Brock Nelson? Like, if you're the Maple Leafs, obviously you're missing some draft picks. You're missing some assets that the Islanders would like. Do you think they'll re-sign him? Do you think he'll be on the move? Do you think the Leafs will be in the mix on a Brock Nelson?
There haven't been any, unless something's happened over the holiday break, there haven't been any substantial or significant contract talks between the Islanders and Nelson's camp. The same for Kyle Palmieri, who's also, going to be a UFA in the summer. I think Brock is going to explore his options and see what's there. He'd love to stay on the island, but with the way things are going, there may be some pretty decent sized changes that are going to happen within that organization. They want to get back on track. They're hosting the All-Star game next season. They want to be competitive. Let's see who's in charge of all that first of all, and then that'll dictate a bit of the roster. But you're probably looking at 3 assets for probably 2 for Palmieri, 3 for Nelson: a first-round pick, a prospect, and then some other piece. And I think for Palmieri, you're probably looking at a first-round pick and a B-level prospect. So with the Leafs not having their first-round pick this year, is a 26 first, A-level prospect, and a second-round pick or a third or something like that. Can that offset it potentially? The other reason why you would want to go after a Brock Nelson, outside of his goal-scoring capabilities and the fact that he can play center, is the fact that he played on the line with John Tavares when he was back on the island, and they had a lot of chemistry together. So to have those guys playing well together, along with Willie on the right side, that now you've got 2 very explosive lines, and a lot of experience on that second line with the addition of Brock. So that would be my target if I'm the Leafs. If I'm Tree, I'm buying new headphones and then I'm going after Brock Nelson.
Jay Sizzles writes in, Lol Nick, all tournaments are fabricated / man-made. That is a really good point. My mistake.
That is accurate. Yes.
In the grand scheme of things. And then Michael Dix just saw my new sign, Amateur Avenue, because we've been called amateurs in the chat quite a bit. So Zach Phillips bought me that for Christmas. What a clever
What a
gift from
gem.
Zach.
Yeah.
We love Zach. Zach's at the World Juniors right now, and the Leafs
Yep.
Nation After Dark will be a hot commodity in Ottawa over the next couple days. By the way, I'm filling in, I believe, for that show next week, so that should be a lot of fun as well. As Asim writes in here on the chat, Joseph Wall, your projected starter for this game in Detroit for the Maple Leafs. That makes sense coming out of the break. I'm more intrigued and interested as to who starts the game against the Washington Capitals on home ice. Is it going to be Murray? Is it going to be Hildeby? And maybe you wait to find out how this game goes against Detroit first, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You have plenty of time to make a decision for tomorrow. Because again, we don't even know if unless something's happened in the last little bit here, we don't know if Ovi's going to be in the lineup tomorrow. We know
Yeah.
he skated in practice this morning, and back on the same line that he was with prior to his injury with Dylan Strome and Protus. So looks promising,
Yeah.
but let's see. Let's worry if you're Leafs. You're going. Let's worry about tonight. Let's figure out these wings with their brand new head coach, and let's kind of go from there. I'm a little surprised that Murray's not getting the call tonight.
Yeah.
Even without Ovechkin in the lineup, you kind of want to give, your better goaltender the better opponent. But whatever, we'll see.
Such is life. Dave, have you played Take It or Leaf It yet?
I don't think so.
So
Not with no.
it's a
Ooh,
unique
there we
gimmick
go.
show to match the rest of the market that we play once a week here on Leafs Morning Take. Pretty easy. Take It means yes. Leaf It means no. You ready to play?
Let's do it.
Number one, this time next year, Easton Cowan will be on the Toronto Maple Leafs roster. Take it or leaf it, Dave.
I'm going to take it. He's going to. Yeah, he should be. He's maturing. He's getting better. The tournament that he's in right now, man-made tournament of the World Juniors, is important in development for a lot of young players, and you don't need him on your roster now. Give him an opportunity to compete at the top level against his top peers, and then maybe he gets in the lineup later on this season. But I'd be a little bit surprised if he's not a full-time Leaf by this time next year, and if he's not, then might maybe a little bit concerned in his development, but I don't think that'll be the case.
I'm going to go with Leaf It, man. I really am. I think this guy's going to be in the American Hockey League next year. You can never overseason a prospect. I like what they're doing right now with Fraser Minton. Both these guys are sort of on the same trajectory. I think this market's already guilty of hyping up Easton Cowan a bit too much. It's very Nick Robertson reminiscent. Hopefully it's not the same type of guy. Love Robertson, but never really hit to his peak of what people expected, especially dating back to his time in the Ontario Hockey League. And I even watched a junior game last night. Cowan's a hell of a player, but there's a lot of learning still ahead.
Yep.
And I think you've got to be wary of that. Not even worry, but just acknowledging of that it's not a linear path for kids. So with that in mind, I'm going to go with Leaf It on Easton Cowan being a Leaf this time next year. Number two, Austin Matthews will partake in the Four Nations face-off. Take it or Leaf It?
I'm going to say Leaf It. Don't play in the damn tournament. You have to go overseas to get your injury looked at. No, the hell. Forget it. You're not playing now. I wouldn't, honestly. Just in all seriousness, all jokes aside, I wouldn't. I don't give a crap who wins this tournament. Doesn't matter. As a Canadian, I'll cheer for Canada, but otherwise, I don't really care because I'll be working it, so whatever. But in all honesty, if there's a sliver of doubt in his health and longevity for the season, keep him out. I'd leave it.
Some people in the chat disagreeing with you. Dinner Bell says, yeah, he's not missing the tournament, but I'm siding with Dave. A lot of people out for blood today. Tony Van Dinther writes in, Austin is selfish. He'll play. I don't buy that for a second. I think there's going to be an announcement in the next couple of weeks where they're like, just this guy can't go. He's got to rest. He's got to chill out. And for that reason, I'm saying Leaf It, where I think the Matthews camp and the Leafs camp are way too smart for this guy to go there and not be healthy, man. Like that would be, you're the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs and you pull that stunt. Imagine he's going to be vilified in this market.
Yeah. Like if game one against, I don't know who they're playing, Sweden.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever. It's one of the Sweden or Finland. You go out there and then all of a sudden, second period, he's not on the bench and he's done for the season because he tweaked something in that game.
Yeah.
you're gonna have different kind of comments in this chat. Like,
Yes.
yeah, don't do it. Don't if there's a risk. If maybe he's got something else that he's dealing with right now and it needed a week and he'll be fine. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. And if
Yeah.
he's good to go play in the tournament. Fine. But if you're laboring, forget it, dude. No, thank you.
A lot of negativity in the chat, man. A lot of people calling this guy selfish. I don't know why, but they think Matthews is going to play. I disagree. Number 3, the final one. The Leafs will trade someone in their top 9 forwards between now and the trade deadline. Take it or leave it, Dave.
Ooh. In their current top 9?
Yes, because it changes every day. Their current top 9. So the third line is McMahon, it's Domi, and Nicholas Robertson.
I'm going to take it because I think Nick Robertson will be the guy that's Gonzo.
Me too.
If it's part of that group, forget about the top 6. Obviously, that's not happening. But
So Marner's not going anywhere. We're good.
not
Okay.
now. No.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe July, but not now. Yeah, I think Nick's still available. He's still out there. Everybody knows he's still a piece that Toronto is willing to trade. And because you're going to have guys coming back from injury, Camp's back, and you'll have Yarncrook at some point, and this, that, and the other, and you're going to add pieces. You got to create a little bit of cap space. Robertson's probably the guy that's going to be out, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that front. I just it's like a square peg round hole type situation. I just long term, I still don't see the fit for Nick Robertson. I have to give him credit. Last little while, he's performed really, really well, and I think he has gelled with those two guys. And if that continues, yeah, it's a no brainer. But I just don't see it working long term, and especially a roster that you want that's going to bring you success in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think it's a lot different than what you see right now.
Yeah, and look, again, perfect world. They make an addition up front.
Yeah,
It pushes some guys down. Um, even more perfect world, you're adding 2 pieces up front to address your bottom 6 and your
true.
second line. But it's all going to come down to the cap and how this team can kind of maneuver it and what Tree ends up doing and what he's willing to give up. Again, you got to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze. Do you want to give up your assets now and chase a cup this season? If you do, you believe you can win now. So that's up to the boys up top.
Manipulate that cap if you're Brandon Pridham as well. A big time of year over the next couple of months for him and manipulating that cap. And the Leafs have made some pretty outside the box type approach moves around the trade deadline the last little while. So we'll see if they can do that over the next 2.5 months or so. It's time for the Great Clips inbox question of the week. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated and open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Excuse me. Use the Great Clips check-in app, see the wait time, check in on your phone, and get your haircut when you want. You know what's hilarious? I have a 5-liter tank humidifier in this condo. It's still so dry. I feel like I'm in the Sahara Desert, but nevertheless, we roll on. All the World's a Stage writes in with this question. Would the Leafs put Matthews on LTIR until the playoffs and use his cap space, or are they worried about the optics of sitting him the rest of the season? What say you, Dave?
Well, if he's legitimately hurt to miss the full season, then I don't think they have any problem doing it. You got to keep in mind you can't just throw a guy on there. The league monitors this stuff. Contrary to popular belief, the league monitors long-term injuries, especially guys that are on LTIR for the stretch. The league takes that shit seriously. I know everyone's going to chirp about Vegas and this, that, and the other.
Tampa.
Tough. Tampa, yeah. I mean, all of those were legit. Legit in the sense of, all right, could he come back on April 30th versus May 3rd? Maybe. But like other than like that's semantics. That's nothing serious. It's not hey, he can be back he could have came back 2 weeks ago. The hell's going like that kind of shit? That's what the league wants to avoid. So they will monitor it. That being said, if Austin's legitimately hurt and he's going to miss, whatever, 4 months, and he's not going to come back till the end of April, that's the timeline, then 100% Toronto's going to take advantage of that and utilize his cap space. Dallas is doing that with Tyler Seguin. Tyler Seguin's done for the season legitimately. If he comes back, best case scenario is the conference final. So you've got $9.85 million in cap space that Dallas is going to try to spend because A, the owner's willing to spend it, and B, Jim Nill, their GM, is willing to fill different holes on his roster. That's going to be another team that's going to look for a Brock Nelson, type. So you got to compete now with the Dallas Stars in that respect, and they don't need any money being retained. So if Toronto's in that position, you bet your ass that Tree's going to try to fill that void.
Yeah, my view on the LTIR thing is like, it's just funny to think about. It's like, you're hurt. Okay, I'm hurt. See you later. I'll see you in playoffs, because it's just happened a couple times. But a team specifically like Toronto, good luck. Good luck trying to LTIR Austin Matthews for the rest of the season and the uproar in this league if that were to occur. I think Tampa was able to get by. Vegas was able to get by. If the Leafs tried that stunt, I know they did it with, what was it, like Riley Nash a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
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 After the deadline.
Yep. And then had him in the,
He did nothing.
Yeah. Well, look, again, the league, I know nobody wants to believe this shit, but the league does monitor it. So, if he's hurt, if he's done, then all right, peace out. See you later. You're done until end of April. We're going to use that money. I don't know why the market would, if he's legitimately hurt, if he's hiding somewhere and no one can see him, optically, that's bad. Obviously. But,
Yes.
Dude is in a brace or is in whatever. And I don't know. If he's really hurt, then he's really hurt. I don't know why anyone would bitch about that.
A brace. It's like the Kevin Nash GIF video. His time in WCW, and he like sits up from the wheelchair. That's how I could see it going down. But for more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips. It's gonna be great. At the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, today, NATION. Any specific plays you like for this game? The Leafs visiting the Detroit Red Wings. I think I'm going to take a peek at the under, even though the number is 5.5.
Yeah, I was going to say the under as well in this one. Again, I'm going to stay away from either team in terms of money line or any of that, or even puck line. But I am going to take the under in this one because I think it'll be a tighter game from Detroit's perspective. They're going to want to keep it that way, and that's part of McClellan's system. On top of it, if this gets blown wide open, kudos to the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I probably would take the under in this one. I could see a Dylan Larkin kind of goal. He likes to play against Toronto.
Okay. I'm going to go with William Nylander anytime goal, and that's where we're going to leave it on today's show. So just a bit of housekeeping notes. I believe Carter Hutton's going to be alongside his host next Monday. We're going to do one more show, then I believe we're off the 31st and the 1st. So next Thursday, set your calendars. Jay Rosehill's return to Leafs Morning Take. But Dave, excellent job today, and I'll probably see you tonight, to be honest.
Oh, that's probably on the schedule.
The next thing you know, it feels like a Monday, and you're like, oh, it's a Friday. Perfect. Love that.
All right. Hit a few watering holes.
About to take a peek once again, but first and foremost, we are going to check out that Leafs game. The Leafs visiting Detroit, then home to the Washington Capitals. Hope everybody had a great holiday season. Merry Christmas, getting geared up for the New Year's as well, and appreciate you tuning in today at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Many thanks to producer Vic. For Dave Pagnotta, I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.